So this is an actual urn. It looks exactly like a football. And when I first took it out of the box, it's like I thought it was a football, but it's an urn. And so a friend of mine works with a lady who lost her sister, and her sister Patricia loved football and lived for the Oregon Ducks and Green Bay Packers. And so the family had tried to look at what the possibility of an actual, like, real football memorial would be, but footballs aren't made to hold things such as ashes. So they were able to find an urn, and I don't know where they found it, but they found an urn that looks just, and actually it has the texture of a football. It's amazing. So yes, Patricia's in here with us.
Wow.
All my art and all my creativity stem from a very dark place, and that is my own mental illness that I've been dealing with for now 45 years. The summer of my 13th year was when I started feeling different. And when you look at the genealogy, the family tree, my father's side is just rife with mental illness problems. There's been 4 suicides in 4 generations. Every major disorder that you could name, my family has had that, including schizophrenia, bipolar, manic, all of the major depressive disorders. And I personally have 4 mental health diagnoses myself. So that trend continues as far as the family situation with mental illness. When my depression started, I was seeing things. So I was actually seeing apparitions. They weren't people, they were just there. And I tell people it's like if you were to take some shoe polish and put it on a mirror and then try to wipe it off and you get this dark smudgy thing. That's what I would see whenever I'd feel my depression. And I would actually feel that entity before I would feel that real deep depression. And so when I was first diagnosed, my first diagnosis was psychotic depression. And then that continued. So then the next one was major depressive disorder, followed by general anxiety disorder. And the last one in 2020, my last diagnosis was PTSD. And the PTSD, and I am a veteran, but my PTSD at no point came from my military service. I was stationed in Texas and California, and for the most part enjoyed my service. I was absolutely willing to I served during the Desert Storm years, but was never deployed for that. But so my PTSD actually arose because I have 2 autistic sons, and one was the most severe case in the state for a period of time. Basically, Josh took out as totally nonverbal, and he's huge. He's 6'2" and 320 pounds, and he took out his frustrations violently, and he had a lot of frustrations because the world's just not meant for someone like him, and so there was just many years of his aggressive outbursts that came as a result of his autism. And so it was very challenging because you're being attacked physically, and it's your own child, and it's not his fault. And so there's and I know there's a lot of parents out there facing the same situation, and it's very difficult because all you could do is try to protect yourself and him at the same time. But that happened for many years. So when COVID in 2020, there was enough stress going around with everything else that he was at our house visiting, and he made a noise like he was upset, and it triggered an episode of PTSD. And I'd never experienced that before. And I literally thought I was dying. I thought that I was having a heart attack. It was so bad. I was almost like, I think I need to say my goodbyes. It was horrible. And so now I have that as a diagnosis, and that's something that I have to continually, be aware of. It's really hard though when your trigger is your own child, because it's the whole idea in dealing with PTSD is trying to manage the triggers. Managing the triggers is paramount. And when you can't, because it's somebody that you know and love and actually want to spend time with. So I had to do some pretty intense therapy just to be around him. I mean, I didn't see him for 9 months, and he lives 3 miles from me. So, because I couldn't manage that interaction, just having him around, and I think the biggest thing is that the impact it has on my wife, because she actually had to say, I can't have you around because I can't deal with both. If he's gonna have a meltdown, I can't deal with his meltdown and your PTSD at the same time. And I totally understand, because it's like that's really tough. So those are my four diagnoses, and I live with them all every day. Now the PTSD on any given day that's not a Josh day isn't as profound, but there's always the other, those. I wake up depressed. I have the kind of depression that's there all the time, not cyclical, not seasonal. It's there when I wake up, and it's there when I go to bed. And no matter where I wake up, if I'm in Mexico, it's with me. So that's just one of the aspects of what I have to walk through, and that's why art has really been such a pivotal thing for me. I have to treat myself. I have been dealing with severe mental illness, and especially suicide. I went through for many years, and I still deal with it on at least a weekly basis, where when I'm not feeling good, when I'm not feeling particularly satisfied in any given situation, there's a good chance that those thoughts of suicide will come out, and I will have to deal with that. And so one of the things I do to prevent suicide is to do art, and is to paint.
Let me ask you this. Where did art begin? How did you find out this could be something to help with my depression?
Yeah, so that originally started, it started organically. And what I mean by organically is, when I was growing up, my dad did some art. Not he never stuck with it really. It was more passing fancy kind of situation. But he dabbled, and so we had a room that had just a bunch of random things, and I loved that room. It had, things that any kid would love to play with. And a couple of those things were art supplies. And so I started just drawing and doodling, and one time I was doodling, and I realized that I felt pretty good, and I I wasn't concerned. I wasn't focusing on my depression. I wasn't focusing on my anxiety. I was actually moving through time without that just constant pressure of mental illness, depression, anxiety. And so I realized that it was just kind of an aha moment. Nobody said anything about it. There was no Google back in the day to tell me one way or the other, like, how do you handle this? I had to deal with it myself. And so I started using the art supplies that were there, and I started just picking them up and putting some paint on whatever I could get away with putting paint on at that time. Because the one thing we didn't have as much of was like canvases. I mean, we had a lot of stuff to paint, so I'd end up painting a lot of things. And so that really became my go-to therapy. And I try to encourage everyone at any point to if you're not feeling well, pull out some art supplies, do a puzzle, do something that's creative and allows you to express yourself in a way creatively, because it's such a benefit to your mentality. I think that's the biggest reason why I can't monetize the art that I do. I have to separate the benefit from any kind of preconceived idea or notion or business kind of related sense, because the more that pressure you put on it to do something that it's not really supposed to do, then it changes your relationship with that, and I couldn't have that. So I'm doing art and I'm creating things, but I can't sell them. I can't promote them in that way, and I don't want to, because again, this is precious to me. This time when I get to sit and create something, it's so important to me that if I were to lose that, it would be devastating. And so I have to protect it. But at the same time, I have to do something with what I'm creating, because I don't want to just throw it away. Someone else would find some kind of use for it. And so that's when the donation of, donating to the art to whoever could use it that was the genesis of that. And so I started donating paintings to nonprofits for their auctions. Lately I've been doing a lot of the live paintings that people seem to like, and I enjoy doing it. It's a little stressful because you have people. I don't mind people watching, honestly. The people watching, because I love watching people myself paint and create things. So I don't mind the people watching it all. It's just the time frame. Sometimes it's because you think, I'm not going to finish.
Yeah.
And yet you got to finish. So that led to the giving away of the art, because the circle that it closed is that you have something that's really bad. You have a situation where you're dealing with something, and if I could ever not feel depressed, believe me, that would be a real day for me, but what I can do is I could take something really bad that is very negative, and I could try to make it a positive. And I think in any situation, that's an ultimate goal. At least it should be. It's like, okay, this is a bad situation. How can we best make this something that we could feel proud of? And so that's the whole idea behind the giving of the art to nonprofits, and that's been very successful. And that's one of the things that I really consider an accomplishment, being able to, in the 5 years since COVID, be able to donate $100,000 of art to help nonprofits. So that is where I want to be.
Are there pivotal moments in your life that you think may have contributed to the different diagnoses that you've had?
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest challenges in living with mental illness is that we're told when we go into the doctor, the first stigma that we are given is at the doctor's office. When we're told that we're broken, there's something wrong with us. And then when I was diagnosed, there was no information. I mean, I think I got a prescription for one of the antidepressants and a pamphlet of some kind, and then that was it. That was the whole sum and substance of my interaction with the mental illness apparatus in our state. And honestly, there's been. I'm sorry. I'm trying to go a different tangent, but I'm not answering the question that you offered to me, which was about the diagnoses. I don't know how to answer that now. I went on a different. The train took a different turn, and I just wanted to keep chugging that way. So I apologize.
No worries. I just didn't know if there were like moments that stood out, like this has contributed to me feeling this way. This doesn't make it better.
I've kind of lost touch with how it used to be. I have been so immersed in the mental illness that I don't really recall a time when I was normal. I don't remember what that feels like. And so and not only that is one of the challenges of mental illness is that you're very seldom stable, because it continually shifts. Just like all my diagnoses right now have moved to the category, what they call what is that? Treatment resistant. Sorry. So now I am treatment resistant. And what does treatment resistant mean? It means that the things that normally would work, stop working to a degree. And I will tell you, Gold, that's terrifying. It's terrifying to me. I live, part of my anxiety is the fear of my mental illness continuing unabated to a place where now I cannot function or I cannot give back.
Was that kind of what happened with your uncle?
It was, yes. So my uncle was a Vietnam vet who suffered from bipolar depression, and his mania would swing from the time that he's in the VA in Roseburg, and he'd split his time between the VA in Roseburg and our house. And when he would get home from the VA, he would be the perfect uncle. I mean, he would be engaged and present and caring. But after a while, he would assume that he knew better than the doctors. And he was feeling so good that he didn't need the medication. And he was on lithium. And lithium can be very effective if you maintain the dosage over time. It's not, you can't be going on and off of lithium because it will have an impact. And that's what he did. And then he would go through town and cause problems. And he would cause the most problems for my parents. And so I've seen what the impact of mental illness on a family. And that has informed my anxiety to the point where now I worry because the whole idea in the early years of living with my mental illness was to exert some control, to be able to sit down with you and do my job, and you not understanding or not knowing or not being aware that I am mentally ill. I'm dealing with those things. That so much energy went into that facade, that the image of who I was supposed to be, and it allowed me to function, but it also caused a great deal of anxiety, in the sense that I go into meetings now and my greatest fear is somehow somebody seeing what's going on behind the scenes, and that impacting a relationship. That terrifies me. That's a constant worry, and as I get older and as my mental illness adapts and evolves, it's more and more on my mind. As far as keeping it from being a detriment to my ability to do my job, to do my art, to advocate about suicide. That's really drives me right now.
Do you have pieces that you recall that were the most helpful in calming those feelings and being therapeutic in times of depression? Any artwork that you can say, this really helped me?
Well, and what I tell people is that there's this kind of gets to the heart of the difference between an artist and a creator. And an artist is not so I do not consider myself an artist. And this is why. The art isn't the thing that drives my process. Meaning that I don't set out to create a piece of art. I set out to just create. And it's the creative process that is so critical. So I may take a month to do a big painting, and it's amazing painting, and people love it. When I'm done with it, I honestly am not attached to it at all. I mean, if it goes and does great things to people, if it raises money for a nonprofit, that's awesome. If someone just hangs it in there and they want it and they love it, and it's like, that's great. I don't care what happens to that, because the value that I got out of it was the creation of it. I was able to take time from my darkness and lessen that for me. So in the time that I created that, I feel better. I feel I have more clarity of thought and purpose in that time. So I'm able to take 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes in a day and just give myself a break. And that's so critical, but what the cost is, at the end of it, I have created something that I have no value for, but some other people do. I've wrung out every drop of benefit for myself. So yes, that's why it is just so critical for me to protect that aspect, that artistic aspect, because it is legitimately my biggest therapy.
And you believe that art can be just as impactful for anyone who's dealing with depression?
Yes, 100%.
Or I should have said creating.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's a fine line. I mean, that's splitting hairs. Artist. I mean, if someone calls me an artist, I don't get, that's the most general term for me, and I totally understand that, and that distinction really lives within my mind between those two. But yes, everybody, and when I do my advocation work, when I'm advocating for people, and I sit down with a bunch of people who are going through suicidal ideations, and I am an advocate and a activist as far as suicide reduction goes. I really want, and that's one of the things, but I tell people it's all about preventative resilience. It's about building things in your life that give you purpose and that feed you, and then getting into those things and accessing those things whenever you need them. So if I have 15 minutes in my day, I go to my office and I paint. But other people who may not want to paint, they may take a little walk. The whole idea is that you dive into self-care and you understand what it is that you like and what you need, and then you build a toolbox for yourself.
You had a synonym for preventative resilience. What was that?
Well, so that was it's part of my plan, my preventative resilience plan. So right now, Oregon is last in the country in mental health. We have a lot of suicides, and just, and what I tell people is, look, I've been mentally ill for 45 years. I have never felt the outreach of the state as far as things that they provide. I've never, I've never felt that the state their plan has ever trickled down to where I am. And I've been mentally ill for a long time, and I've never felt that. So I, as far as that goes, I have developed a plan to address that. And my plan to reduce suicides in our state totally revolves around preventative resilience and building in. So many of the aspects in our mental health system now is designed to be there for the last 5% of a timeline. It's like a person is over here, they're really good. I mean, they're like, I'm having the best day ever. I'm eating cake and it's great. This is the other side where I don't want to be here anymore and I may kill myself. When we look at everything that's being done, it's all in this area right here. We need to back that off in the timeline. And my plan addresses that. And it uses one of the most abundant resource that we have now. And it's a free resource. And it's people who are also dealing with mental illness, who are dealing with it at a successful, so they've been successful in that, and they want to share, they want to give back to the people who are going through it now. And they want to provide a little bit of guidance and some encouragement. Because once you've lived through something, there's a natural tendency to want to help other people go through those hard things. So my plan gives people purpose. It gives people who have lived with mental illness, are living with mental illness, or have lived with someone who's been mentally ill. And they want to help other people and guide them through this challenging time. And so that's the crux of my resilience plan. And it's using that whole adage, the fighting fire with fire. And I firmly believe, and I'm a little biased because I created it, but I think it would absolutely change the way that our state deals with mental illness. And in no other state in the nation are they using mentally ill people to help mentally ill people. And I just think that, because that's a benefit for both the person being helped and the person helping. Because when I'm sitting across from someone who's thinking about ending their lives, it's a very challenging conversation, and it's very emotional, but it's also doing me good. Yes, my goal is to help the other person, to help them value their energy and the fact that they have to stay here, because everybody's energy impacts someone else. When you're in that and you think that you're worthless and you think that it's hopeless, you don't value your own energy. And that's what I tell people. Your energy is critical and we have to have it. I need your energy, because what's coming for all of us is going to take all of us. The world's not going to get easier. We have to come together. So
now, I know you said you work with people who are dealing with their own mental illness. Can you expound a little bit about how you do that?
Sure. Yes. So one of the biggest fallacies in our country right now is that there's anything that's actually beneficial on a high level in the mental illness space, meaning that no matter what form of therapy, whether it's talk therapy, whether it's medication, whether it's immersion, whatever kind of therapy, there's an efficacy rate that's, right now the best that I'm seeing is about 40%. So that means that no matter what happens, the chances are only about 40% that you're going to see any benefit from that. Now, going back to my thing where this is our timeline and people are happy here and they're suicidal here, if you wait to reach out to anybody, to do anything until you're in crisis, and now you talk to somebody and you go through a therapy, you take some pills, and it's not working because it's, you may be in that 60% it doesn't work for. You've really painted yourself into a corner. So the whole idea is and then when you reach out, you don't really know how to reach out. And those resources are very limited. You may have to sit in the emergency room for 8 hours to get any kind of help. And so the whole idea is when people get there and they reach out and they don't have any luck with that, and so then the family get involved and they don't know what to do because nobody talks about mental illness at any point, because that's like, we don't do that. They know because I'm very transparent. I put it out to the world. I am suicidal. I've been suicidal for 25 years. I get through my life giving myself, in those dark times, I give myself 24 hours. I got to find a reason to live for 24 hours. And so I have been there a lot, and I know what that feels like. So people call me and say, hey, could you talk to my brother, friend, whoever? And I say, absolutely. Now, when I do that, I'm not taking the place of any professional. It is not my goal or my overarching plan to replace any kind of professional whatsoever. Not the case. But the most important thing we can do is talk. And so my goal is just to get someone talking. If I can get someone talking, then we could actually start formulating a plan.
Why is being transparent about your life, why is it important? Why does it matter that you're so open about, hey, I'm suicidal, I deal with this?
Right. And you will never meet, I don't know if there's another person in the United States who says that they're a suicidal financial advisor. Because that's, people be like, what? That sounds crazy. This thing called stigma. Stigma kills people. There's going to be people 50 to 60 to 70 in our country today that are going to die because of stigma, because they cannot admit that there's something wrong, because they cannot come to bring themselves to saying, I am broken. I am unhappy. I'm dealing with some profound feelings and I don't know what to do. They would rather go down that road all by themselves than bring anyone else into it. And so when I say, and I label myself all the time, I label myself as suicidal, I label myself as mentally ill, and I will continue to do that until those labels mean nothing. Until we get to a place where everyone stands up and says, yes, I deal with mental illness myself. When that happens, it's like, I liken it to, if you're ever in Autzen Stadium and they do the wave, it has to start with one person, one crazy person standing up, raising his hands, sitting down. I mean, and they have to do that for a while, because if you watch a wave start, it just doesn't just start. Now, what will happen is you'll have somebody doing that, and then that will encourage someone else to do it. And now you have two crazy people out there doing the wave. And then, oh, that looks like fun, 3 and 4 and 5. That's how you start this. You start with 3 or 4 or 5 people that, and yes, it is not, do I want to label myself like that? I mean, not particularly, but the importance of it is that if I label myself and I make that normal for people to understand that I do that, I'm just that. Right now, I'm that one dude in the stadium. But before you know it, it's going to start. And more people are going to be standing up. And they're going to be joining me in that. And it's not that there's anything special about me. I'm just doing it because I know it has to be done. Because transparency is everything. If you could be honest about your thoughts and feelings, even if it's not attractive, even if you have thoughts and feelings that you don't want people to know about, they have to know about that, because that gives them strength. When you show strength, it strengthens other people.
Let me ask you this, bringing it to something current event. Do you think that stigma, the inability to be open and express when something of this nature is happening in your life, do you think that played a role in what happened with Marshawn Nealon?
Absolutely. And I use him as an example. And I have walked the path with him, as far as that, his dark thoughts. I've been there. And what I want people to take from this situation is, here's somebody, and we all have known athletes, and they seem to go through life unaffected by many things. And they are given the assets and the tools that most people don't have. As a student athlete at a college, you're taken care of very well, especially nowadays. You have access to everything that you need to survive, no matter what. If he were to say at any point, I'm having a mental problem, he would have 5 therapists there within an hour. So he had some access to something that most of us don't, and he had it throughout his life. It wasn't used because there's certain subsections of our population. I mean, athletes are one of them. Military, first responders, anything where toughness is important. There's an importance on toughness. Whenever you have that situation, you're going to have people like him who don't take advantage of anything that's there, get to a place that now they're in crisis and don't know what to do. Because again, we are dealing with mental illness at the wrong time. We're dealing with it when we're just doing damage control. We're not actually treating mental illness. We need to put that in everyone's life way in advance of crisis, at a place and time when, yes, I start feeling I'm struggling. Well, now guess what? Now it's my responsibility. I have to put things in my path that are beneficial. And this is not about the therapies that are out there, even though may not work for you. Well, then try a different therapy. Try a different way. Use a different therapist, because sometimes and give it a chance. So it's not that therapies can't work. It's that if they don't work immediately, we don't give them a chance, And so my whole plan uses everything that we already have. It uses all the resources that are already out there and playing, and it's going to drive people to those resources. but it's going to give people that mental health discussion far earlier in their timeline, so they will be able to build their resiliency plan far earlier in their crisis timeline.
Did you call that radical self-care? What did you call it?
Yeah, I called it radical self-care, and that was that preventative resilience. It's basically also known as radical self-care. And what I mean by radical self-care is that we never put ourselves first. You know, everyone on our list of importance, we're down there towards the bottom. You know, depending if something hurts us, you know, we'll go to the dentist, whatever, you know. But generally speaking, the way that I do it, we go to the top. If we take care of ourselves, and it's the same. Everyone gets sick of, you know, if you're on a plane, you put your mask on before you put someone else's. It's that, and we understand it, but we don't do it. So my plan. And my resiliency plan is radical self-care in the sense that you have to revalue you. You have to move yourself up on the list, and you have to do the things that you require to stay above. You know, I use the scale, the rabbit hole scale. A lot of people dealing with mental illness, they use the same scale, and at the top of that scale is ground level. That's the best we're going to be. That is the absolute best case scenario. We're on the ground. Now you have a rabbit hole. And at the bottom of that rabbit hole is your death. And so you are going to go down that rabbit hole. And the further you get, the darker it is. And the more hopeless and helpless that you become until you hit the bottom of that. And then you may bounce around the bottom before talking about suicide, but it's going to happen. And the only way out is to climb your way out of that rabbit hole. One step, it takes a while to get to the bottom. It takes a long time to get out. But that's where now that you're out of that rabbit hole, you have to stay out of the rabbit hole. And you stay out of the rabbit hole by taking care of yourself and intervening for yourself when that time comes, because that's the biggest thing. I have to authorize myself to to be an advocate for myself. I can't do that. I have to take care of myself. So I need to plug in things in my day that make me feel good. And if I find myself going down that rabbit hole, I need to pull myself up immediately, because if I allow myself just a little bit, and the thing that I'm going to tell you right now is that for me, the deeper I get, the more comfortable I am. Because once you've been suicidal, the abyss calls to you. And that, when you get to that place, it's comforting, it's comfortable, it feels like home. And that is one of the most disturbing things, is that, yes, I've been down there. And there's this peace and calm there that because it's calling me towards that outcome, and I cannot allow that. So I need to stay out of the rabbit hole as much as possible. And I don't even know if rabbits make holes. You know what I'm saying? It's like I've heard rabbit hole my whole life. We're going down the rabbit hole. I've never seen a rabbit in a hole. But that's neither here nor there.